Okay, so once you've started to prepare your timeline, which may look something like this, but will probably be at least a little bit different because your projects will be different to mine, obviously, then you'll need to have a look at your budgeting. And so for that, this is actually something that I noticed was a bit of a problem with most of the submissions, or in fact with all of them, for the last assignment. Even though some of you did the areas for the different spaces, what you really needed to do was areas for costing. And so for that, you really just need a square metre area for the whole space or the whole proposal. And then also you could maybe break it up into indoor and outdoor space. And also maybe sometimes you can treat wet areas separately as well, but usually you can just do the whole area. But also we wanted you to look at doing a square metre area for your wall surfaces. And that was all to prepare you for the costing that you'll need to do for the second assignment, and also just to get you used to the way that you should present things for council applications, because you'll always need to give a floor space area when you're doing any council approvals submission, or any submission for approvals. Sometimes you need to go directly to the Department of Planning. And so, have you done square floor space areas before? So, okay, well, I'll just mention those. So, when you're doing areas, again, always when you're doing your own designs, you should know the overall area of the proposal. And for a development application, you'll always need to give a floor space area, which is actually the area to the outside face of the walls. It's not just the area of the floors. So you do need to go to the exterior face of your walls. And then you'll need to give that as a ratio to the site area. So that's known as a floor space ratio. So it's the ratio of the floor space to the, again, to the total site area. And you'll usually need to also give a site coverage percentage. So it's a really important thing to have just for the approvals, but then later you'll see when you go to do costing that it's extremely useful to have that as well. And so so that's going to be the starting point for your costing. And so to do areas in AutoCAD, it's often easiest just to draw a polyline, and I've drawn a couple there to give you an idea. So I've drawn one here that's got all of the interior space. So in this case, we've got these existing walls which aren't going to be rebuilt, obviously, so we're retaining those, and all of the new construction is going to take place within that area. But I have included areas that are going to be demolished. So this, and actually, so I should have included this. I'll draw that again. And then I've done another one for the outdoor space as well, which in this case would be a fairly similar cost to the interior in any case, but quite often the exterior construction or building area is going to be much cheaper than the interior floor space. So I've made a layer for the different areas, and again, it's usually going to be an overall area for the square metre rate of, that you're going to use for your costing. So I'm just going to draw a polyline, and then take that to include all of the parts where I'm going to have any new building work. And actually, sorry, to do this more accurately, I'm just going to maybe put in the windows, because I haven't drawn the windows in yet that I'm going to be punching through this wall. So I might quickly put those in as well. So I'll delete my hatching, and it doesn't need to be perfect as long as I've got a rough idea, because this is just a rough costing. Oops. Just make sure I've got ortho on there. So trimming all that away, that'll later need to be shown as demolition as well. So I'll have a window over here. No, for some reason I've got a wall there, that's wrong, but anyhow we'll fix that up later. So so the window here probably be smaller. Maybe something like that. Okay, so I can obviously fine tune this, but as long as I've got an area set aside for the window and the rough size. So again, I'm going to go back to drawing a polyline, which will include those as well. So just using the regular polyline tool and going over all of the areas, including the parts where I'm demolishing and building new. Okay, so I'm going to go out and around these window areas where I'm demolishing. Now I've made a mistake there. So when you're drawing polylines, you can go back within the command if you type the letter U and enter. It's like a mini undo that'll undo while you're drawing the polylines. And now I can just redraw those segments. And so here I'm going to remove those windows and the walls underneath and come out basically flush with these columns here. So I'm going to again make sure my polyline goes around those areas. Across to here. And then I want to come back now to my start point, so you can type C and then enter to close the polyline. So you can see there, if I select that, the polyline goes around that entire area. And we can always just right click while that's selected, go to isolate, and then just isolate objects, and now I can see just the polyline by itself. So I might make the line weight there a little bit heavier, just so it's easier for you to see it. Okay, so I've got that polyline. I've got another one that is including that balcony area. So I can always bring those back just by selecting and then going to isolate and then end object isolation. So I've got this other polyline here. And so then to work out the areas, you can simply type in the command area. And the area tool has all sorts of interesting options, like the option to add and subtract areas, so you can use it to calculate the areas as you go if you're choosing different objects. But here I'm just going to use the default option, which is object. So if you don't choose that option, you can click points and it will give you the area inside those points. But if you press enter, then you can select something you've drawn. It's usually easier to use that method if you've got a complex area, because you can draw the polyline, get that right, and then again just select the object using the area tool like I am here. So I'm going to select that now, and then you can see it's giving me an area. 88,076,223. So what do you think the units are? So, yeah, that's right, 88 square metres, but someone's, I think, said square millimetres, so yeah, that's right, it's square millimetres, which you can, yeah, that's right, so which you can convert, because there's a million, it's good, important to remember, there's a million square millimetres in a square metre. of course, we convert that to square metres. No one works in square millimetres, just AutoCAD. So, so you need to take off or move the decimal place 6 places to the left. Okay, so so you just need to remember that. Remove 6 or move that decimal place across 6 spaces, and then you'll get the square metres. So 88 square metres, that's right. Okay, and so then we have the other area, and I might just put that into the calculator. So 88. And there is a calculator built into AutoCAD, but it's often helpful to have the Windows calculator open. If you want to know, you can get this in. You can still get this in Windows 10. In the default in Windows 10 is that horrible full screen calculator, which is useless. But the old one's still there if you search for it. And it's really useful when you're doing this sort of work. You need some sort of floating calculator that can just have there running while you do other things. So type that in, and then I can do my balcony area. Again, just typing in area, and then object, and then select that. So it's again moving the decimal place 6 spaces to the left. It's 5.6 metres. So, well, that one's not too hard to add up in your head, 93.6, but we'll just type it in anyway, just to remember. Okay, so going then to some standard construction costs. You'll find these easily by searching online for square metre rates. So you can just type in something like Sydney building costs per square metre, and if you put fit out, then you'll get some for interior fit outs, which is a bit different to normal costing. And so then normally these square metre rates are only going to be given for overall construction, and I think this one in Sydney, I don't know where they're getting these costings, because that is just I just don't know how you could build for that. I've worked on hundreds of projects, and I've never come close to that. Even 1,500 is, I think, really low. Maybe in the outer suburbs if it's just to lock up. And sorry?
Just put it like that to make it call or ask.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
After that,
Yeah.
something like that shouldn't be more.
It
would be the most expensive one.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, these guys are quantity surveyors, so they're meant to be accurate. But again, I mean, this could be for mass construction, and it's 3-bedroom weatherboard project home. So project homes are they're built on mass and to a standard specification, so that does reduce the cost a little bit. Still, it does seem very low. So here we go. Architect designed 2,600. Even that is fairly cheap. Can give you an indication at least. So that's for new housing, and then you have costs for townhouses, units, and so on. This one is very similar. I've shown you some of these others before. So here's a bit more accurate. Maybe timber frame 1,400 up to 1,600 full brick, still fairly cheap. And no, yeah, this is the one I've shown you before. So you'll find lots of different resources that will give you these costs. They do change over time, even though I know some of these haven't been updated for a few years. And then I thought I'd just show you one which is more for office fit outs. You won't find too many for interior residential fit outs, but at least this will give you an idea of the difference between a new commercial building, which you can see here goes from 1,900 up to about 3,500, as opposed to a fit out, which is around half the cost at least. And so this is going to be more of a fit out than new construction, because we've obviously got the shell here. So that is probably going to give you a better idea of the cost, maybe $1,000 a square metre as a starting point. And just want to have these benchmarks in mind as you do your more detailed costing. And it's something you'd be expected to do. So as you discuss things with your clients and show them different design options, they will ask you roughly what the cost is going to be. And I just, over maybe the last decade or so, have gotten used to doing costing in my head fairly quickly and generally get it right within about 20 or 30%. But again, sometimes I get it way out, and sometimes I get it pretty close to spot on. So it does vary a bit, but it's something clients will expect you to have at least a rough idea about. So you'll always be calculating these things roughly in your head as you do your designs. And so, as we've seen, the square metre rate, or the square metres, roughly, let's say 95 square metres, and if we aim for $1,000 a square metre, with some of the structural work that I have to do with the design I'm looking at, it might be a little bit more than that, but let's say it would range from 90,000 up to, it could go up to 150,000 as a rough guide. So again, you want to bear those figures in mind as you do your more detailed costing. And I've given you a template that you can use to do that more detailed costing, and that's really what you need to start on for this second assignment. So you do that rough square metre costing. Remember, it doesn't even include things like the height, so that square metre rate is the same regardless of the, in this case, the floor to ceiling height that we'd have in this space. Many apartments would be lower than this, some would be higher, and that doesn't take that into account at all. So it is just rough. So if you go now into the resources folder again, and then in design project resources, the file for costing is this one, light commercial building estimate template. Version 1 is one that I've just changed a little bit. And so I already have that open. So you can see I've just got headings for all of these main areas. Not all of them going to apply, but at least you can just work through those and put a costing in, and it should total it all up for you. So you're going to need to do a little bit of research and, like I said, maybe some guesswork to work out what all these things are going to cost. And so for things like the framing, you could rationalise that as well. So rather than doing it with each member, which the way I've done it there, you could work out the area of each wall face and try and work out what each wall is going to cost you. So I'll have to look at some different ways of working that out. But firstly, you just want to go through and work out which of these things you're going to need. So, for example, scaffolding, you can probably remove. Well, I'll let you work out which of the temporary things you need. Sorry? Yeah, so you probably... Well, actually, sorry, no, some of you may need scaffolding. So if you're going to remove and replace the windows with, say, full height glass, then you will need to have scaffolding at some point. And, well, you wouldn't need to actually, but it's definitely a possibility, and it could actually make the job easier. So you probably won't need all of these things, but you may need some of those scaffolding elements if you're going to do what I'm planning to do, which I'll just show you here. So I was planning on putting full height glass there along that side of the bedroom, and that will give you a bit more floor space as well. You don't have to do that. If you're just replacing the windows, then you probably won't need to have scaffolding. And so I'll try to get you some estimates. I can't promise anything because builders are a bit touchy, but I should be able to get you some estimates from some projects I've worked on, which you can use to get some of the figures for your costing. But again, if you just go through, a lot of these things you can do based on the square metre of those different. Well, so firstly, work out the square metres for these different things. So the plastering, for example, and the tiles. A lot of that's going to be working out the actual square metres. So that'll be the units here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Would you measure that the same floor plan, or would you do like the elevations? Like you have to measure up the elevations.
Yeah. So okay. So if you've got a floor plan like this, then you should have your sections as well. So you'll need to copy the sections across for your proposed drawings anyway. And put that in the wrong place. So let's get that lined up. Okay, so for most of these walls, you can assume that they go to the undersurface of the bulkhead there. So if you know that height, okay, so just measuring from there up to the bulkhead is 2910. So you don't have to go through the whole process of drawing an elevation for each one. You can just work out the lineal length of those walls and then multiply that by 2910. So yeah, and often you will just do a lineal length. So if you draw a polyline, so I might just make another layer for that. So I'll just call this lineal wall. So you can draw a polyline then, tracing these walls. It doesn't matter if you have to draw a little bit extra. You shouldn't really have the end of the wall there, but it's only going to add 100 mil, which won't make much difference anyway. And so I can just trace around each of these wall surfaces. So maybe to there would be a good point because this next one will be a separate line. So that polyline then I can just go into properties. We don't need to do any special command. It'll tell you the length then of that polyline, even though it's going in a zigzag pattern. So it's 6.2 metres or 6.25 metres, and then I can just draw polylines for each of those walls in that way. So well, here I suppose I could come down and then again, you can use your judgment a little bit, so probably go into there and then across because we've got that area there. So again, 6.25 plus 4.6, so again just keep adding those in your calculator. It's probably good to have a table. It'll just make your life easier if you're documenting these, so you can just do a little table in Excel. And I'm sure a lot of you know these things, but okay, so Excel is great for adding up things for you. So let's put linear meters. So heading for the first one there. The height is going to be the same for virtually all of them. Some of them might have a different height, but they should be pretty much all the same. And then you could even label the walls to remind you which one is which as you do them. So this could be W1 and so on. W2. And then, okay, so back into Excel. I've forgotten already the first one, so this is why it's good to record it all. Okay, so 6.25. So back into Excel. 6.25. Now it's helpful when using Excel if you know what the content is going to be to set the cell type to that. So if here you just choose number for anything that has a number value in it, it lets Excel know what that parameter, or what the what's the proper term for it? The who's done programming and knows what what am I thinking of? It's been so long since I've done programming, it's embarrassing, but what are they called again? Anyhow, the number, the formats, there is a proper name for these, I just can't remember. So whether it's text or numbers, and then there are other options as well, date and all those other formats. And so then, as I said, things like the justification, that's not that important. And make for the headings as well though. Oops, that should be centered, there we go. Okay, so the height, like I was saying, is 2.91. And then the second wall was against 4.3, close enough. And just copy that value down. Now it's important here that you don't drag. When you drag, just make sure they don't increment. So that's okay. It's retaining that value because it's not incremented. So it's a quick way of copying those down. And then for the area, you can just use a simple formula. So we can go to do a formula, just type equals, and then click on the cell you want to use first. So I'll do this cell. Multiply is the asterisk, and then choose the cell you want to multiply by. Enter, that'll give you the area. Now you can even then go to the number formats and then get that to go into a format for square meters. Been a little while since I've done this, but you can do it. How do you do it again? Anything special? Oh no, we'll just keep it simple and do it with leave it with the number format and use the decreased decimal option. So you probably don't want that many decimal places, so you can just use the options up here. You can get it to show with meters squared, but you don't need to. So you can just have Excel calculate that for you, and to repeat that formula, you can again just click and drag from the corner to drag those down. So then you can have your totals at the bottom. So here again, you can just make this total, and we can have all of these totaled. The heights don't really need to be totaled, but the linear meters and the areas definitely will be useful. So you can use AutoSum up here, and it will usually detect the right boxes, but you can always adjust that that rectangle to change the area included in your AutoSum calculations, and it'll just total those areas, or total those numbers. So again here, AutoSum, and just make sure it's picking up the right area, or the right cells. And there we go, that easy. So it's not a bad idea to format these as you go. Okay, something like that. and maybe no, that'll do for now. And just a right border on there, and actually say these two as well. There we go. So wall areas, something like that. And then going back to the costings, you've got then the figures for all these different things that where you can use your wall areas. So for the painting, they'll use the wall area for many of those things. So you could even break it down further, because some of those walls will be tiled, at least in part, and some of them will be painted completely. So you could break this down further as you work out what the different walls are. And so then when using this table, as you put in, say, for example, the wall unit, so what did we have there again? So it may be, I don't know, 120 square metres in the end, probably a lot more than that, but let's just say 120. And then you put in the rate, so you need to work out a square metre rate for painting, so let's just say it's $30. And then you can see here, I have put some formulas in here, so this is a sum actually, but, well, it says sum, but it's actually multiplying those two cells there. And then you can see there that this subtotal gets updated. So that's going to be the total of these figures here. And then at the bottom, that grand total should in turn be updated with the sum from all those cells above. Right, so you'll need to check those formulas as you go and make sure they're doing what you want them to. But otherwise, as you fill in this table and take out the parts you don't need and maybe adjust some of these headings, you can simplify a lot of it probably, then you should get a final figure. And remember, we've got that range in mind that was between 90,000 and 150,000. In some cases in the past it's gone up to about 200,000 for this one, which would be expensive, but with high quality finishes, that's what it could be. And so you're not expected to do a perfect costing for this as you first go at it, but it's really important that you at least attempt to go through this whole process, and then when you do get some genuine costings from builders, you'll get a much better idea how they do things, and whether or not they're being exorbitant or not. And it's good to get obviously a range of prices and obviously compare those. Have any of you had a look at getting costings for different things, for maybe renovations or any building works on your houses, and seeing there's a lot of different options now online? You can get lots of different web services that will give you costing for things. So have a look at those. They're a little bit, I don't want to say amateurish, but I found that unless you're very specific about the trades that you want, they sometimes don't give you very realistic prices, those services, but at least you've got lots of different options these days. So, yeah, sure.
How it's set out. Like, so on the left hand side, it's got like what the trade, or like, so you have like plumber.
Yeah.
Would be required for the plumbing.
Yeah.
But then it has description and description again.
Oh yeah, so that's if you just need a further note. So you probably don't need that column in this case. See, it does have some explanation. So you can see here in scaffolding, there's a little bit more detail.
Okay.
So it's only if you need that extra detail. If you don't need it, you can remove that column.
You just make the bigger column.
So yeah, you could if you want to. Yeah.
Would it be like
Yep.
comments or special instructions.
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
And
Yeah.
then the PCS allowance.
Oh yeah, no, just remove that actually. Just take that column out.
And what's the difference between units and quantity total?
The units is the. Also, it just depends on whether you're using one or the other. So, yeah. So in some cases, you're talking about a unit. In some cases, you're talking. Yeah. Yeah.
Total quantity
Is the number of items. Yeah. Yeah. So you could use the same for both.
or could you just have it on units or quantity? Would it be better to have it separate so you could show something to square meters rather than?
Yeah. Yeah. It's only to make it clearer. But if you're happy to use the one column, you could remove one of them if you want to, and just use it. Yeah. Because you'll only have one or the other.
So this is sort of like a schedule, like materials sort of. Is it a schedule?
It's a spreadsheet, and so
But it's more.
it's a table really.
The trades, like time, like
Ye-
budgeting of like the total.
Yeah, this is for you to know, so you can do a costing, so that you can give your client an estimate. And you would only give them a detailed costing like this if you're doing the project management for the project and acting as the builder. So you're providing them with a price to build it. Otherwise, you'll get this from a builder.
Okay, and that should include quantity of materials.
Oh yes, yeah, of course.
You should have it's like your schedule mixed with the contractors.
Yeah, it's a bit different to schedule. So the schedule is more specifying the units that you want. The costing could be included in that, but it's not costing everything. But this does. This is the total price. Yeah, it's the total price. I mean, you've got to build it for this, and the price you give them is what they're going to pay you. So if you don't include the price for everything, then
Yeah, I'm just wondering where this relates into with the schedule. Like
Yeah.
you have this and then you go into more detail with the schedule per item.
No, well, see, the schedule will be done whether you're doing the project management or not, whether you're acting as a builder or not, and so that's specifying the products that you want for the design, whereas this is done purely for pricing and.
This should include those things.
Of course, yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the schedule will have some more detailed information, but it may not have the costing. You don't always need the cost on the schedule. It's just specifying. Yeah. So this, is something that you can work on over time, and like I said, I'll try and give you some more definite examples of estimates that I've got, but you should be able to at least start working out the areas, which is going to take you quite a bit of time, I'm sure, and just identifying which of these things you need. And again, maybe just look at any other tables you need to make to calculate things like your areas.